The Pine Tree Snake. A story by Gene Presler. This is a tale not quite true. If you're not careful, it might happen to you. It happened one day in the great north woods when 4 hunters were busy unpacking their goods. They decided to camp in the tall pine trees, where the ferns and the scrub brush were up to their knees. They found a good spot in a sheltered glen. This is a tale about what happened then. They first heard the noise when pitching their tents. It sounded like the wind through an old rattling fence. But no wind blew in the tops of the trees. They could see it was still, not even a breeze. Then one of them said, "It sounds like a snake, or maybe the sound of the ground being raked." One hunter said, "I know just what it is, but you better sit down before I tell you this." So they gathered some wood and started a fire. Then all sat down as the noise grew higher. The night grew dark as the story was told about a creature that lives in these woods so old, as big as a log truck. And make no mistake, the name of the creature is the Pine Tree Snake. "Now you're putting us on," the first hunter said. "I've heard enough. I'm going to bed." The Indians lived in great fear of this snake, that slithered around when the hour got late. By day it rested, but never did sleep, or curl itself up in a great big heap. No, it opened its jaws and bit the ground, that thing, and straight up through the air its body would spring, then stand there just as still as the trees, and spread out its scales like pine branches and leaves. Its body was brown, and its scales were green, and next to a pine tree it could hardly be seen. "Now you're putting us on," the second hunter said. "I've heard enough. I'm going to bed." A lumberjack saw it one day years back. He was looking for a tree to add to his stack. He found just the one, and his axe he struck when on the trunk of the tree an eye opened up. The branches shook and it started to twist, and deep from the ground came a terrible hiss. Then a huge forked tongue knocked him around and left his axe right there on the ground. How he got away must have been quite a knack. He'd have enough of the woods. Never came back. "Oh, you tell a good tale," the third hunter said. "I've heard quite enough. I'm going to bed." Now just one hunter was left to sit by the fire. Since all of his friends had chose to retire, they didn't believe the story he told about the pine tree snake and the legends of old. So he put out the fire, sat in the dark. Not an ember was left, not even a spark. Then he heard it again, that terrible noise. Off in the woods, a rough, hissing voice. He felt a shiver on the length of his spine, and his eyes looked around at the tall, dark pines. He tried to put the story out of his head and said to himself, "I'm going to bed." The tents and the guns were all scattered around. Not a sign of the hunters has ever been found. The curious thing is the marks that abound, like something quite huge was dragged on the ground. Was it just imagination? Or did he really see an eye open up on that big old pine tree?